Hello, creators. How are you guys? Great to see you again. We got a great stream here that I'm excited to start. So I think this thing, yes, it just automatically starts streaming live now. So good to see you guys. Let me start that over again because I watched the countdown. It's my second time to streaming this new software. I'm like, it just automatically goes live for me, which is something that I have to get used to. Normally I control that. Let me start over again for the podcast people. Hello, creators. How are you guys? It's great to hang out with you again for another Video Creators Podcast episode. We do these every Tuesday here on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, all the places you listen to your podcast episodes, as well as live streaming this every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time at youtube.com/video creators. And it's great to see all of you guys who are live in the chat here today. If you listen to the podcast, you should totally come hang out with us and try this live thing with us sometime. It's great. I love seeing all the familiar faces here in the chat every single week, and it's always fun to kind of answer these people's questions and hang out with them. And I think my favorite part though is just watching all of you guys in the live chat just interact with each other and ask questions and have different people answer them for you and getting input on things. And I like seeing the community really come together and support each other in here. So if you're listening to podcasts, I'd love to have to join you. But that is not what we're talking about today. Although I love to. Maybe we should do another podcast, just to talk about how awesome the live community is. What we want to talk about today is how to get more views from suggested videos on YouTube. As my team and I work with more and more clients, we're finding that, and I think you guys already know this, but that is like, it's becoming such a massive, powerful traffic source in driving viewership and driving subscribers and exposure overall. And it's been one of my favorite traffic sources for years, as maybe you guys have heard me talk about before when I talk about like search and rankings and things like that. Because when you compare like all the different traffic sources together in terms of your average view duration and viewing time and watch time and everything, man, like it's hard to beat those suggested videos in terms of average view durations and viewing times. Because like here's someone who watches who's not just like quickly looking for something and then like search and then is out, but they're in a viewing session. They're just clicking from one suggested video to the next suggested video, getting you potentially a lot of traffic and millions of views and things. So we've been working with a lot of our clients to kind of target this traffic source specifically. And because if watch time is such a huge deal, we're like, well, where's the highest average view duration coming from? And like in terms of our most valuable viewer, and what do we need to do to really blow up that traffic source and get more people who are coming from traffic sources that are potentially really valuable because they're watching. Maybe if like search is like 1:28, suggested might be more than 3 minutes. So we can like double our watch time without doubling our actual viewership just by capitalizing more on suggested videos, and makes a really big difference. So how do we actually do that? That's what I want to talk with you guys about here today. And you guys can leave your questions in chat, and producer, I'm not sure which one's here today. I think Trina's supposed to be here, but I don't see her in chat yet, but she's probably here, just kind of hanging out. So you guys can, oh yeah, she's here. Hi, Trina. So you guys can leave your questions in chat. And I want to kind of go through the overview here pretty quickly of how the suggested videos rank and give you and what goes into that system, so that we can maybe make some better decisions about how we can influence how our videos rank and are surfaced in suggested videos to get people who are just in a viewing session just kind of click and go on to the next one and on to the next one and on to the next one, and get us not only a lot of watch time, but a lot of session watch time on our videos. And I want to give you 3 main things I think you should focus on here to really help blow that up, that we found have been very significant with our clients and things that we're working with. Okay, so let's talk about first of all how does the suggested work. And I want to spend most of our time answering questions, but let's kind of set some foundations here, and then if you have questions, just drop them in chat. So In terms of how to become more suggested, this is, as you can imagine, anytime we talk about anything like algorithm related to YouTube, search and discovery related to YouTube, it's not like hey, let's solve this problem in 3.5 minutes, right? Like, these are very complex systems. In fact, YouTube says that they look at about 80 billion data points to determine what video to surface to whom and at what time, right? So like, this whole system is like, what does someone want to see? And when do they want to see it, and and who wants to see it? Like, they're trying to figure out that, and they take a lot into consideration. Okay, so we're not going to solve it here in a few minutes, but there are some high level things I think it's important and helpful for us to understand that can potentially have the biggest impact and make the biggest difference in terms of how we do this. So YouTube's goal with this search and discovery system is to figure out what the viewer wants to watch next. When they're watching the video they're currently on, what do people typically want to see after that? And there's a few different ways to look at this. The best way to look at this, in my opinion, is to think about it from each individual viewer's perspective. And what I mean by that is, don't think about like on an algorithm level, like what does the algorithm want to see next? Or what do people in general want to see next? It's think about it specifically as someone's watching video A. What does that person who's interested in video A want to watch next? And thinking of it more at an individual level, which I think will make a little bit more sense as we go through this. So YouTube's trying to figure out what does someone want to watch next, and I think it's important to understand that, and perhaps you've seen this yourself when you look at content on YouTube, the videos on the right sidebar on desktop, or if you're on mobile, all the suggested videos are beneath the video that you're watching. A lot of people think like it's mostly related content, and sometimes it is. But a lot of times it's not. One of the biggest factors that determines what shows up there is a viewer's own viewing history, search history, things that they click on and watch, things they don't click on and watch, things that maybe they've indicated to Google previously. They've hit the not interested button and given that signal to Google. It's each suggested video sidebar is very personalized and tailored to each user. So sometimes it could be content that is related to the actual video that someone's watching. But let's say you just watch a bunch of Jimmy Fallon videos or whatever, and maybe you didn't even subscribe, but you watched 2 or 3 of them. You're like, okay, I'm done. That's nice. And then you go to search for maybe like how to fix your leaky faucet. There's likely that there's going to be other videos there related to fixing a leaky faucet, but they're not there because they have similar titles and keywords. They're there because because a lot of people indicated that they watched the leaky faucet video. They wanted to watch another leaky faucet video. But you'll also see, though, because you watched Jimmy Fallon videos maybe last night, that there's also going to be several Jimmy Fallon videos there, which are obviously not related at all to your video that you're looking at on how to fix your leaky faucet, right? Like no connection whatsoever. But Google's like, hey, last night you spent, a good 25 minutes watching Jimmy Fallon videos. Perhaps you'd like some more, right? And so they put them right there. So again, the goal isn't necessarily let's position videos that are relevant to the same video they're watching. The goal is let's put content in front of these people that keeps them on YouTube longer. Now, to kind of answer the question though, like when you're looking at a video on, like you're searching for how to fix a leaky faucet, you're like, but Tim, when you look at all the suggested videos over there, a lot of them are how to fix a leaky faucet. And that is true not because of the keyword matching, but because YouTube has learned that when someone actually types in how to fix a leaky faucet, the thing they're actually looking for right then is how to fix a leaky faucet. And so they'll watch one video and then they've figured out they want to watch maybe 2 or 3 more that also explain a process or a different style of like plumbing or handles or drains or whatever, the case might be. And so those videos are positioned there because YouTube has learned that's what people click on next. Not necessarily because they have the same keywords or they have the same tags or they have the same description or the thumbnail similar or anything like that. It really comes down to click-through rate from video A to video B. When someone watches one video, what do those people do next? Do they click on this one or that one? And if one of those is getting a lower click-through rate, guess what? The video is just not going to be there like forever. It might be there for another week. And so you'll see a lot of, YouTube experts in my space say that we can get any video ranking in 24 hours, #1 on YouTube and blah, blah, blah. And that's true, but it's kind of misleading because during that first 24, 48 hours and 1 week or so, YouTube doesn't have a lot of signals around the video. So they'll put a video. You can get a video to rank #1 for a little while, but if the click-through rate is really low, like, it doesn't matter because YouTube's going to push you right out and replace it with content that people actually click on, watch, and then watch more videos and more videos like that. And so it's really important to focus on the viewer, the human angle, the viewers, user behavior on all this. That's what really gets these videos to start ranking next to each other. Okay, so YouTube is looking to surface videos that aren't necessarily just related to the video someone's watching, but rather videos that are relevant to the viewer. So YouTube's system is optimizing for the viewer, not for the content. And that's the way we need to think as well. So I know a lot of you guys spend a lot of time with doing stuff with keyword research and tags, but there's a couple problems with like thinking this works based on tags. One, a lot of people lie in their tags, right? So it's just kind of like, it's just kind of like YouTube's learned not to trust that. So people are like, oh, if I use this keyword, it has a higher search volume, so it's more likely to rank and be positioned for that. Like, no, it's not. There's actually might be drifting more into like misleading content than anything else. And then also, like, there's just lots of people using keywords. And the thing that gets the keywords to rank is not because like the robot, the algorithm is like looking for specific keywords or anything. It's like people are looking for certain keywords. So it's because we use this thing called language, and we use words to represent things that we are interested in or we want to discover. And so it's not because the leaky faucet was the right keyword. It's because someone who was looking to how to fix a leaky faucet is expecting to see the keywords leaky faucet, and thus they click and they watch because of that, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Now let's talk about some things. You guys are asking some good questions so far, and we want to get into them. But you're asking some stuff about like, how do we do this, okay? And that's what I want to get into next in terms of like, now you understand maybe a little bit behind it. What are the 3 things that I think we should focus on as creators that could help us actually boost how our videos perform well and having our content suggested to either our own content or other people's content, things like that. Okay, so #1 is, you guys have heard me say this before, but it makes sense in this situation too, is you need to have a very specific audience. You need to make videos for a specific audience. Don't make generic videos for generic audience. And I know most of us, like, none of us think we're actually doing that. But in most of the sessions that I do one-on-one with creators, we usually start off by defining like, all right, let's talk about who you're going after. Who is the most ideal subscriber to your channel out of everyone in the world? Like, who is this person we're going after? Because let's form a content strategy that's designed specifically to reach out and hook that person and bring them in. And I know sometimes that feels like you're limiting a lot of people, but it's never been the case. I've never seen that actually true. It's just like you need to gain momentum with someone. And so what happens is, if you know your target audience intimately and you know how best to hold their attention in your videos, and you can get them to watch more videos, like, one of the things that's going to get them to watch more is making them feel like, this content is for me. Like, this is what I've been looking for. Like, I feel like this creator is just doing exactly what I want, and what I need. And like, that's the way to get them to watch one video and then another video. They feel like your videos are for them. And so having a specific audience is going to help that click-through rate on more of your content. They're going to be giving you more watch time, more session time, and it just helps the channel overall, as we've talked about in many other different contexts, but especially in the suggested video realm. And so the thing to really focus on here in terms of what you should be learning, I think the skill here is learning good branding. And I know like sometimes we think of branding in terms of icons and logos and things. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how do people understand us? What do they think when they think of our name or our channel? What do they associate that with? Do they quickly think like, oh, that's exactly what I need? It's clear. I know exactly what that channel is all about. Every time I go there, they deliver every single time, and I could figure it out in about 2 to 5 seconds. That's what I'm talking about. And so that messaging is really clear about your brand, and people can quickly feel like this is for me and I know exactly what I'm going to get from this channel. Then that'll kind of all is encompassed under branding and how you do that and execute that. In Video Labs, we talk about how to do that specifically on YouTube, but there's a lot of branding books out there that needs to be done regardless of who you are. If you're a retail store, if you have like a product that you sell, or whatever the case is, like a coaching business or consulting, doesn't matter. People need to know that type of information very, very quickly. So that's number one. So learn branding. Number two is you need to focus on your end screens and playlist click-through rate. Okay, so these are the two tools that we talked about, I think, 2 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago. So if you want to dive more into how to actually do this, listen to those previous episodes, which you can find in iTunes or anywhere else, and go back and listen to how do you actually capitalize on using playlists and end screens to really get people to click and watch one video, then another video, and another video, and another video, and keep them in that rabbit trail. But these are the tools that we have to do that, because what happens is once someone watches video A, and then you can get them either with your end screen or playlist to watch video B, and you can start getting a significant number of people to actually start doing that. Google starts learning like, hey, if we surface video A, then they watch video B from the same person and the same creator. And so like, let's surface video B right next to that video, even though they're not in a playlist and they're not to the end screen yet, but we just know that people who watch this video end up watching this other one. And so you can really start giving Google some of those signals about click-through rates and sort of associating your content with other videos of yours that way. Now, of course, that assumes that you're getting for the end screens anyway, it assumes that you're getting people to the end screen in the first place. So look, your audience retention graphs, and if you're not getting people, like a good amount of people to your end screen, and you've lost them, they've abandoned your video before then you're missing out on a really tremendous opportunity here. So it's like, how do I craft my content to get people to the end of my videos? And then how do I design my end screen and give a call to action that doesn't just get people into another video, but also gets people into maybe a short specific playlist that I made, again, which we've talked about a few weeks ago in that episode, and strategies and different designs. I shared with you guys in that episode a few different designs that we've been seeing work really well, one for entertainment channels and one for educational channels that seem to have the maximum impact with getting people to click and watch another video. So if you want to learn more about that setup, go listen to those. But definitely focus on the click-through rate on your end screen to get people to watch more content, and also getting people into playlists, either with interactive cards, linking to them in the description of the video, or just adding them as an end screen onto your videos and getting people to click and watch there. That just gives Google a really positive signal about that. So the main thing I would focus on there in terms of like the skill to acquire is actually storytelling, which we've been talking a lot about here lately on this channel as well. Just getting people to actually start feeling like an emotional attachment and an engagement to the stories that you're telling, that they were like, what? This is awesome. It blew my mind. I got to watch this next video, and then this next video, and this next video, and telling really good stories I found for my channel and a lot of people we work with has been just probably like one of those, I don't want to say hacks because it's not a hack, but you know what I mean? It's like one of those things it just works. And people start doubling retention and watch time and things really quickly when they start telling meaningful stories. All right, the third thing, and we're going to hop into your questions here, is to spend more time on your titles and thumbnails, because you're not going to get a high click-through rate from video A to video B if your title and thumbnail for video B is lame or weak or poor, right? You guys know this. You've heard me say it before. Like, it doesn't matter how amazing your content is if no one is going to click and watch it in the first place. So it's really important that you don't just spend like hours working on your video and then while it's uploading, you're like, shoot, what's the title for this going to be? And you spend like maybe 2 minutes thinking of the title and maybe spend 5 minutes just kind of using some random custom thumbnail. It's just rough, guys. Like if you're going to put a lot of time into making a piece of content, I recommend that you start with the title and thumbnail before you even shoot the video. No, like this is what people are going to click. This is the image they need to see in order to click. And that way, when you create your content, you can open the video with a hook that connects directly with the title and thumbnail someone just clicked and really delivers very quickly on the expectation that your title and thumbnail set up for them. So spend more time on that so you get a higher click-through rate. And the main skill I think to learn there is to consider two different skills. One is to learn a lot of copywriting skills because there's a lot of industries that are in the same position. It's not just YouTube. Magazine headlines on stands and racks, like that sells magazines. So maybe study like what they're doing with their headlines on magazines. Podcasts, blogs, same deal. Newspapers, although they have other issues, I've heard, but you get the idea. It's like this is not a new thing to YouTube. There's tons of resources out there already in the copy writing, headline writing world, like headlines that capture attention and that really create intrigue. There's a lot of psychology that goes on behind those types of things. So doing some Google searches and learning about that would be time well spent. And the other thing, of course, is to learn how to design good thumbnails is to spend some time maybe going through a design course of some kind, to learn good page layout skills and how to use fonts and texts and images and colors and really be able to make those images very intentionally and optimize them to pop, to be attractive, and to really pitch the value that complements the title of the video. So learn those things. Okay. Sweet. All right. Let's dive into some of your questions. We've seen a lot of them come by in the chat. So let's look here. So first of all, those of you who are channel members, I'll do your questions first. Appreciate you guys and your support here every month on the channel. And hopefully I get to support you guys back with not only answering your questions, but also all the exclusive behind the scenes content you get, but the in-depth trainings that are available only for you guys who are members of the channel. So thank you for joining. Six Blind Kids asks, what is suggested related to end cards? So if you're asking like, what is my suggested advice related to how you should optimize your end cards, then yeah, we talked about that in terms of focusing on maybe putting a short playlist there, doing a little pitch for it, and really encouraging people to be like, now that you know this, now you really should learn more about this instead. And then just talking. We talked about a tactic a few weeks ago about where you should just talk about it. Don't from the perspective as if you're assuming they're going to keep hanging out with you. Don't say goodbye. Hope this was helpful. Tell me what you think. Nothing like that, because those are all very quick, clear signals to people that this content is over, and people will quickly abandon the content at that point. So DX Army asks, so is click-through rate the biggest factor of getting suggested views and whatnot? Yes, it is probably the biggest. There's other factors as well, but the main thing Google's trying to answer, like we said, is if someone clicks on this video, what videos do they watch next that keep them on YouTube longer, engaging with as many videos as possible, as many different channels as possible, giving as much watch time, seeing as many ads as possible, right? So the click-through rate is really, really important. And it really has much less and less and less to do with perfect tags and, hey, I put PewDiePie in the tags of my video, so why is my video not showing up next to PewDiePie? Well, because YouTube's learned that your video may or may not be about PewDiePie. It might be misleading, and it might have nothing to do with him, or it might actually be about him, but people aren't actually clicking through onto your video as much as they are of some of the other videos that are showing up there. So that's how it works. Hasman12, also thank you for being a member. I understand what you're saying, but how can we increase the chance of getting on the recommended when no one has watched our stuff before? Oh, yeah, good question. So what if you're just starting out, you're at 0, how does this work? So I alluded to this very briefly and kind of moved on, but when you first publish that video, YouTube is experimenting very heavily with your videos when you first publish them. So the first 24 hours, first 48 hours, and certainly the first day. After 7 days, during the first 7 days, there's a tag next to your videos in search and suggested. It says new. And so that's Google's signal to the viewer, like, this is a new video. Because people like recency. They like relevant, fresh content. And so Google labels it for 7 days that way. After 7 days, that new label goes away. And then that's where YouTube kind of figures out, like, all right, we promoted this, we surfaced it a lot of different places, a lot of different ways. You have a lot of data and viewer signals about this. And we've learned where people do click and where people don't click. And so if you're new and you're really not getting any traction, that's probably an indication that people aren't clicking. And if they do click, they're not watching long enough, as opposed to an alternative option that YouTube has to surface to that viewer next to that suggested video. And there's a lot that goes into that, but I think we can just understand, like, when you're new, you still have a lot to learn about who is your target audience and how do you consistently deliver value to them, and how do you craft content in a way that delivers the value that they want, in a way that they want to consume it, and how do you hold someone's attention. And I know it's really easy, especially when you're starting out, to think like, dude, like, all my videos are awesome. How come these aren't ranking like number 1, number 2, number 3? All of my videos. If you've been making videos for more than 6 months, maybe even a year, like, you can probably look back in your very first video. And at the time, you're probably super proud of it. You're like, oh, it's awesome. I made a video. The world needs to see this. But 6 months to a year later, you're like, ooh, I'm kind of embarrassed by that. Should I take that down? Like, is that hurting me? And the reason we think that is because our skills have greatly, significantly improved over 6 months to a year. So I want to be careful how I say this, because I don't want to be misleading or even discouraging. But I think, like, when you guys are just starting out on YouTube, the main skill here, well, there's a lot of skills to learn, but the main objective is not to think like, oh, I should be blowing up. The main skill here, and the main perspective and expectation to have is, like, how do I learn my skill? How do I hone in on my craft? How do I deliver better value? And just focus on just your systems and your processes and how you create and deliver and capture value. You're going to get a lot better at that over time. And so all that to say, though, to answer your question, Hasbin12, is that YouTube is working with every channel. Your very first video, even, you have 0 views, 0 subscribers. You publish that video, they are surfacing it, and now you can see exactly in your analytics how they're doing that in terms of your impressions. But if you have, like, some impressions and a low click-through rate and then low watch time, then that's an indication of, like, yeah, Google did surface this to people. It got impressions, but it just didn't perform well enough to hold its weight there in those spots. And so YouTube put other content there instead. So hopefully that's encouraging, because, like, in the sense that you don't feel like YouTube's, making it hard for you to be discovered, because that's not the case. It's just like the content's just not there yet, but you'll get there. And you'll learn and you'll grow, and then you'll figure a thing out, and you'll have this epiphany moment. You're like, oh, this is how I do that better. And you'll do it, and it'll have a massive impact. So that's the way to think about it. 6 blind kids. Oh, okay, good. Clarification for them. No, it's suggested from YouTube related to what videos are promoted in the end screen. Kinda. That's, again, what we've been talking about, is if there's a high click-through rate from the video someone's watching to the video you promote in your end screen. In other words, if you can get, like, 50% of the people who click play on your video to watch the entire video to get to the end of your video, and then click on your end screen to then watch another video, and then that video does the same thing. Half those people watch all the way through, click and go to another video, and et cetera, et cetera. Man, your channel's just going to blow up, because you're giving really good value to a lot of people, and they are actually sticking around and watching and indicating to Google that, hey, I want to see more videos from this channel. I want to see more videos from this creator. And Google learns that because people are actually watching the videos you put on the end screen and other videos on your channel. And so that's when you see that happen. But again, remember too, that just because one person sees more and more of your content suggested doesn't mean that someone else is going to either. Let's say, using the Jimmy Fallon example that I used earlier, actually, let's say let's just say I personally spent. This is actually exactly what happens for me when I'm preparing for my one-on-one channel consultations. Is I spend a good anywhere from a half hour to an hour, depending on the channel, just digging into their content, watching their videos, writing down notes. And so I'll spend a lot of time watching a creator. Well, now for at least the next week, sometimes longer, whenever I'm on YouTube, their videos are always going to be suggested next to any video I'm watching. Doesn't matter what the topic is or who the creator is or anything. It's just like, I spent a lot of time watching that creator, preparing for our session. Google doesn't know it was for a session. They're just like, wow, you're really interested in this creator. And Google's going to follow me around with more videos from that creator, no matter how small or how large the channel is. So it really has to do a lot with the viewer behavior. And that's what comes back to what I said in terms of like every suggested video sidebar is tailored for each viewer. So just because it looks one way to you doesn't necessarily mean it's going to look that same way to anybody else. The best way to get the closest idea is to go into an incognito window in Google Chrome or whatever browser you're using. Just go to a private viewing window, go to your video there, and then look at the suggested videos. But again, that doesn't mean anyone else is going to see those same suggested videos that you're seeing. It just means like that's what you're seeing as a logged out viewer who has where Google's not taking your previous viewing history and search into account for what they suggest there. Hopefully that helps. Patty Burchard, good to see you again. Appreciate you. You're like here for every single live stream. So Patty is I don't know what to call you, a loyal live streamer with us. So thank you, Patty. And especially for being a member, I can see for over 6 months. That's awesome. Thank you so much for your support. Can a video that didn't get a great first start ever be regenerated somehow and get into suggested? I mean, if we go back and improve all of the SEO, yes, it can. And I have seen that happen when you update some of the metadata around the video. I've done that myself even when I have a video. I'm like, people keep asking me this question all the time. Why are they not finding this video I made about it? Like, this video answers that question. And so I'll go back and I'll update some of the metadata. I'm like, brainstorm through a new title, different description, maybe update some tags with some more relevant ones or something. Just kind of reevaluate that. And then I'll give it a few months. Sometimes it works and the video starts getting surfaced again. Sometimes it doesn't. Now, to be clear, it doesn't start, it's not the YouTube algorithm. It's like, oh, you picked better keywords now. Now we will position this video in front of people. It's not like that. It's not like YouTube doesn't reward content based on like the grade you got in terms of which tools you use to pick what keywords. It rewards you based on viewer behavior and viewer signals. And so if you give it a better title, you might get a higher click-through rate onto that video from people, which helps it perform better. Or maybe you retitle it to maybe target a slightly different audience, or pitch a different value, or instead of like using a title that just tells people what you're going to talk about in the video, instead you pitch a title that teases more the pain or the reward that the viewer will get if they watch the video. Something that's a little bit more enticing, pitches more value, or something like that. And so you're getting a higher click-through rate onto it, and that's what helps the video start performing better, because now it's more watch time and more session time and things like that. So remember, all this stuff comes back to human stuff, like human signals, and hopefully that point is clear and you're picking up on that. All right, cool. Let's see here. Kevin's Mac. How many seconds do you see works best for end screens? It depends on like educational stuff, where it's like a talking head, maybe, for example, or just a voiceover or something like that. I use the full 20 seconds. I mean, show that thing as early as possible. Keep delivering content for maybe the first 5 to 10 seconds of that, and then use the final 10 to 15 seconds of that 20 to quickly just wrap up the video. Again, not in a way that's like a sign off, goodbye, see you later. Just talk with the expectation that people are going to keep hanging out with you. If you want some examples, go watch some of my videos. I've been doing this pretty consistently for a while. My click-through rate on my end screens averages If I remember correctly, last time I looked, it was around 20% click-through rate. So, which is high. Normally it's like 0.7 to 1%. And those are for people who just kind of tack it on there as like an extra 20 seconds onto their videos. A very low click-through rate. So, integrate that call to action as the main action you want someone to take as a result of watching that video, and get them into another one. If it's an entertainment-based channel, you can sometimes get, sometimes like 10 seconds works if you're kind of good story, and all of a sudden like, what just happened? It ends at like a high note, and people are like, what? This is over? I kind of want to keep hanging out with you. Like, why is this over now? And you're like, well, it's not over. Click and keep going, right? So sometimes using the final 5 to 10 seconds on an entertainment type of channel can do pretty well. Let's see here. 5280 Adventure asks, is it better to have more watch views from non-subs versus subbed? It doesn't matter. I mean, typically your average view duration will be higher from a subscriber than a non-subscriber. So the subscribers are definitely valuable, but it doesn't matter where you're getting those from. I guess let me say this. It depends on what you mean by better. Channels that have higher unsubscribed views and watch time tend to be less volatile. The channels that have high subscriber views tend to be very volatile because the channel with high subscribers has to keep publishing content over and over and over again. Like, they've got to keep up with that grind in order to keep their views up, in order to keep their audience engaged, and in order to keep monetization and all those types of things. Whereas my favorite channels are the ones that, like, and I have several of these that I made several years ago around a pretty trendy topic at that time. And it doesn't have my face in them, doesn't have my voice in them. My wife's hands are in some of them, but for the most part, like, you wouldn't be able to identify them with us unless you knew my wife's voice and her hands. But so those videos, like, I haven't actually uploaded to those in like 2 years, 3 years for some of them. It's just like, I know these videos are going to do really well. It's a really hot topic, get lots of traction. And so I just made a whole series of videos for that channel, published them there, and then just kind of baking on AdSense passively off of those. So those videos I'm positioning those intentionally to continue to get non-subscriber views. And when that happens, that's when things become like growth can be more predictable. That's a good indication that Google is finding that people who don't yet know about the brand or the channel will engage with this channel and follow it. So it means like they're going to put your video in front of people who might not even be looking for it in terms of suggested and homepage and things like that. So that's really powerful. So if you're looking for channel growth overall, you obviously need non-subscriber views. If you only have subscriber views, you're not growing. You're probably only declining from unsubscribes at that point. So I guess as I talk through this a little bit more, again, it means what you mean by better, but I would say, like, go after the non-subscribed viewers in terms of for growth. But you can't do just that, though. You do need community content, because once someone clicks and watches, then and subscribes, then you need to convert that viewer from a viewer into a subscriber, from a subscriber though into community. And that requires like building the know, like, and trust factors, and getting people to really like want to come back and watch more and more and more, because you will typically get a higher average view duration from subscribers. So you do need both community content and discoverable content. And you also need sales content too, but that's a different topic for another time. Malcolm Lawson, realtor, says, I started asking questions at the end of my videos, but notice many abandon the video when I do. Should I skip the question and go straight to promoting another video? Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you're looking at your retention graphs and you noticed that already, Malcolm. That's that's good. That's great. Good for you. Yeah, totally. I don't ask questions anymore. I find that in a discoverable video, let me take that back. In a discoverable video, the main call to action I focus on is getting people to click and watch another video. For a community video, the main goal is engagement. So in that one, if I'm just like, hey guys, here's what I got planned for you in 2019. Here's where I'm going with the channel, and what do you think? that's obviously going to be a more community-based video. I'm not trying to get that video to rank for anything or position. I'm not trying to get... That video is just for people who are part of my community and care about what's happening and what's going on next. And after a week or so, that video should no longer be getting any views. It served its purpose, and it was just for my community. And so for those videos, engagement is the key. But for discoverable, yes, it's more valuable. Even like, don't even ask for people to subscribe, especially not in the begining of your videos. Come on, guys. There's so many of you who do. And I know there's other people like YouTube educators recommending that, but and I understand why. It's like, oh, they're going to abandon my videos to get them to subscribe before they leave. I'm like, if they subscribe and then leave, they're probably not going to watch another video of yours anyway, so they'll become a more passive subscriber. But even if they do, one, it's kind of like, hey, I want you to give me something before I give you something else. Two, people know how to subscribe. It's like adding a friend on Facebook. People just kind of know what that is now. And then three, I have seen in audience retention graphs that when you do that consistently on your content, you'll see a drop, an audience retention drop at that every single time. Now, sometimes it goes back up again, which means people just know, like, oh, he's asking me to subscribe, skip, right? And they're just skipping ahead, which is like, you don't want people to do that. Like, just get into the content, give them, like, focus on giving people really good value before you try to like capture value. But I digress, okay? The main call to action of a discoverable video is not to ask people to subscribe. It's to get people to watch another video. Now, if you want to do like have a subscribe thing visually on screen, you can do that. Or if you want to say something like I do this sometimes, I'll just say, so subscribe here and I'll see you guys over in that next video. You could do that as well. Just like really briefly mentioning it. But yes, Malcolm, you're on the right track. Epic cardboard props. Is it a good idea to target suggested videos when you're a small channel with a few hundred subscribers? Yeah, absolutely. That is a good question. We can get into this strategy a little bit. So the way, number one, actually, first of all, it's really hard to like, I don't know. You can target suggested videos, but to be like, here's how I'm going to grow big with lots of, like, it's click-through rates and things like that. Remember, it's kind of what we've been talking about here. But the strategy, if you do want to target suggested videos, and I have done this very successfully and continue to do this. This is my process. So first I just watch a lot of YouTube, and I usually just click and follow the rabbit trail of suggested videos on YouTube. And what I'm looking for are videos that align with the value proposition of my channel for my target audience. And I'm looking for videos that have high views on channels with relatively low subscribers. Okay, so if I see a video with 1 million views, I'm like, ooh, that's doing pretty well. And it was just published like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. I'm like, wow, that grew really fast. And then you see this a channel with 10 billion subscribers. You're like, oh, okay, never mind. I see how that got there, right? But if it has a channel with maybe 1,000 subscribers, you're like, what happened here, right? And so that's a video I'm going to investigate a little bit. I usually use Chrome extension from vidIQ to look at the history of that video. Did it just go big on Reddit, and then did it get a big spike and die? In that case, if it's not really growing anymore, I'm probably not going to try to target that video. I'm looking for videos that have high view counts on channels with relatively low subscribers that are still gaining momentum. They're still growing. They're still getting a lot of traffic. And so sometimes if I need to, I'll have like a spreadsheet, and I will just like put a date, and then I'll put the channel title and the channel URL in that spreadsheet. And then I'll put how many views it currently has. So maybe I'll come back a month later and kind of check on it, be like, wow, in the last month it grew by like 1 million views. Like, okay. And so I'm looking for videos that are evergreen, that are performing really well over time. And typically that are, every niche is different. So I don't want to give like a specific number, but I'm looking for ones that are like, wow, this looks like a really good video that's going to perform well for a while with that person. And so once I find a few of those, I'm like, okay, this video is doing well. This video from this creator is doing well. Like, what is it about these videos that's performing well? And so I'll look at the title, I'll look at the thumbnail, and I'll look at what's in common among these. And then I'll watch the first 15 seconds, especially. How do they open with a hook? How do they hook that viewer's attention? Then I'll watch the content itself. How is it holding someone's attention? What's happening here? What are they doing in terms of editing, presentation, and style, and cuts, and delivery, and everything? And so I'll learn a few things, and then I'll go I don't want to make the same video, because no one wants to click and watch the same video they just watched from someone else, right? So I'm not going with the same title, I'm not going with the same thumbnail or anything, but I want to make a video that could be suggested. could be like maybe the next video they would want to naturally watch after that video. So for example, I saw a video that was doing pretty well about how many views do you need to get $1,000 on YouTube. And it was doing really well for this creator with relatively low subscribers. And so I made that video a few weeks ago. Maybe you guys saw that, except for I made it suggested. Or I made it different. It wasn't the same video. It was like, well, how many subscribers do you need to earn $1,000 on YouTube? You guys remember that video from a few weeks ago? And that video did maybe like 3 or 4 times better than a normal video of mine would. And it's getting suggested from that video. Now, it doesn't happen every time. But it's like, I found that like 1 in 50 or 60 times you try this, only like 1 of them will actually stick, which sounds really frustrating, but it's actually like, you think about it, you only need like 2 or 3 of these videos to stick. And once you get them to stick, like your channel is just going to be bringing in new people all day long, every day while you're sleeping. So, yeah, so you don't need all, don't do once or twice and get frustrated and give up. You got to keep doing this over and over again. I did it another time this is a few years ago, actually like 6 years ago now or something like that, with one of my family's other channels. Is we have 7 little kids and we homeschool them, and so I was looking for a video on like kindergarten activities to do with them. And I found this one video that was really interesting. It was like how to make golf ball paint. And it was growing really fast. And the craft is you get like a pan, you put a piece of paper in it, you squirt some paint in there, and then you get a golf ball and you just roll it around the pan and it makes like a nice design all over the paper. And my wife was like, yeah, but we don't have any golf balls. Like we can't do that one. I'm like, yeah, what are we going to do? And she's like, well, we have an oak tree. Like we have plenty of acorns. Well, could you do it with acorns? I'm like, I don't know. But that video was growing really fast. The channel only had a few hundred subscribers, and the video had like 30 million views or something. I don't remember the exact scenario. It was a long time ago, but something around there, and it was growing really fast. And so we made the video, how to do golf ball paint with acorns, right? So it's not the same video. It's like a suggested video for someone else who's like, oh, I don't have any golf balls either. Oh, they use acorns? How did that work out for them? And that's, so making content like that. Hopefully that makes sense for you guys as we're doing this. So that's kind of the process of how I do it. But again, you got to do it a bunch of times. Just because you do it once, don't give up. Come on, guys. Like, you can do this. Right? So stick with it and keep going. Dr. Sten Ekberg, good to see you, man. Welcome to the stream again. I know you're a regular here, but I know we met in person too at Vid Summit, so it's good to see you here. On the click-through rate funnel, how do you know the title is good or bad or the thumbnail is good or bad? Yes, that's a good question in terms of click-through rate. So there's no like total like science for this really. It comes down to learning like what works and doesn't work over time as you try a lot of different things and experiment. The way I do that, I know there's some tools out there that let you A/B test things. I don't use those because of some concerns I have for how it could potentially impact my channel. So the way I do it is I actually use groups and analytics. And if you're not familiar with groups, in Classic, and not in Studio, like YouTube Studio Beta, but in Classic Analytics, in the upper right corner, there's a drop down for groups, and you can create video groups there. There's also an option for playlist groups. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about video groups. And what you can do is you put like all your videos that have like a big picture of your face in the thumbnail, put that into a group and title it like thumbnails - my face. And then another one like thumbnails - not my face, and do another 10 videos that don't have your face on the thumbnail. And put both of those videos or put those videos into those groups, and then use the comparison button inside your groups to overlay those groups on top of each other. I usually take out the top performing video and the bottom performing video just to kind of like have a little better median average, and then compare them. And I'm like, wow, the videos that have my face on them have a much higher click-through rate and impressions than the ones that don't have my face on it. Okay, lesson learned, do my face. Okay, and then I'll do another one. Like, how about red background versus blue background? Or how about smiling versus frowning? Or how about big text versus no text, right? There's a lot of different experiments. So I tend to do them organically over time like that. And as I learn lessons like that, I'm like, well, that past video I did is really good. It's not getting the traction. And I can see now like that thumbnail is breaking all the rules that I currently have for my thumbnails. Give it a new thumbnail, right? That type of thing. So that's how I test it. Now, YouTube does have a beta version of their own built-in A/B testing, which will be true A/B testing, not like switching the thumbnail back and forth a bunch of times. It will actually allow you to literally like give YouTube 2 thumbnails, and they'll do the testing based on audiences and things like that. That's in beta, closed beta. I heard I was accepted into it. I got confirmation of that, but I don't have access to it yet to actually tell you guys anything about it. And so, but that is something that I know YouTube is considering and working on, so that it is easier for us to do that. The other thing to look at in your analytics is just look at the impression to click-through rates and see what titles and thumbnails have the highest impression to click-through rates, and use those. 2+3 asks, does it hurt videos to pre-schedule them? Does it tell YouTube that for X amount of time, no one was interested in the time between upload/live, or does the system not start analyzing until it's live? Yeah. It's based on published state. So when your video is private, you can let it sit there private for as long as you want, or even unlisted for as long as you want, and then publish it. There used to be a bug, and this was several years ago, they fixed it, but I know that like this is how YouTube world works. Like someone spreads a theory, and if it feels like something someone could latch onto, like people latch onto it for a really long time. And I know that's not necessarily true with a lot of you guys, but what you're addressing here used to be true about 3 or 4 years ago, where there was a bug that if you uploaded as private or unlisted for a while, that it just wouldn't get pushed to as many people as it would if you just set it straight to public. But that was a bug, that wasn't an intentional design. And about 3 years ago, YouTube said that they had fixed that, and that was no longer the case. And that's been my experience too. I haven't seen any issues with keeping a video private or unlisted and then publishing it. So cool, guys. Well, next week we have a guest joining us that I think a lot of you guys might know, and this is someone I've known for a little while, and I'm excited to get to hang out with this person here live on the channel. And this person goes by the name of Nick, and last name Niven. So if you guys know who Nick is, I was gonna try to draw it out and make it like but leave you hanging. But no, yeah, Nick Niven is gonna be here with us next week, and we are going to have an awesome time hanging out with you, hearing some of his expertise, and letting him serve you guys the best way that he can through some of his advice. So if you're not already subscribed, you want to hang out with us live, make sure you do subscribe here on YouTube at youtube.com/videocreators. Or if you're listening to the podcast, you'll get the recording a day later there on Tuesday. And so you guys can just make sure you're subscribed there. If you are listening to the podcast too, if you don't mind leaving us a review, giving us a star rating on iTunes, that really does help our channel out. That's like the #1 thing that helps podcasts is like those channel. I keep using the word channel. You know what I mean? Those review ratings. So thank you guys for doing that. And also, looking forward to hanging out with a bunch of you guys who are in the chat and video labs. I know there's only a few spots left, so if you're interested in joining that, you can go to videocreators.com and click on courses, and go ahead and sign up for that. We've only got, 8 spots left of the 27. So if you want one, grab them now, and we'll spend 8 weeks together going through your channel, talking about your content, and like just really helping you guys reach your goals on YouTube. We're just finishing up a session now, and like about half the people, I would say, did like all the work and really dedicated themselves to the process, and almost all those people have doubled their growth trajectories since then, in only like 2 months, and they're looking really positive going forward. So it's really, I just really love going through that and serving you guys and being in that hands-on experience with you guys for 8 weeks, and really taking you guys through the process, the same process we use when we work with creators and brands like Budweiser and eBay and Disney and HBO and Century 21 and all those big brands, same stuff. So that's what we're going to teach you guys, so you can do the same. So thank you guys for hanging out, and we look forward to hanging out with you guys again next week for another Video Creators podcast. We'll see you then. Bye.